Hi, and welcome to My John 17 for Life. This is a Christian podcast about finding your calling, understanding God's will, and learning how to live a life of purpose through faith and obedience. John 17:4 says, I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. And that's the heart behind what we do here. Because so many of us are asking, what is my purpose? What is God calling me to do? And how do I know if I'm living in God's will? And sometimes we don't need more pressure, we need clarity. In this podcast, I sit down with real people from all walks of life, moms, business owners, pastors, creatives, and everyday believers who are learning how to follow God, hear His voice, and walk in the purpose He has for their lives. If you've ever felt unsure about your direction, overwhelmed by life, or disconnected from your purpose, you're in the right place. Hi, Morgane. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming on. I know you are several hours ahead of me, so thank you for staying up late and talking with me. Please share a little bit about your story and your journey with God and how it became real for you.
Okay, so hi Samantha, hi everybody. And yes, it's 6:30 p.m. here, so it's still not too late. Everything's fine, and I'm very happy to be here and having this conversation with you. So God is so good. He like the way He loves us without us even realizing, and even when we live in sin, because, well, we are all born in sin because we are human, and the Lord's kingdom is above, but here it's another type of kingdom on earth. And it still hurts me to call it a kingdom because that enemy to me is not a king. So that's what I wanted to start by saying, because when you are born in a family where your grandma does divination with a pendulum, and she's so accurate that it's your grandma. My grandma was benevolent. That you usually have the image of a grandma who's benevolent and who's looked at with respect and love and care. So of course you see this quotation mark gift, and of course it has to be from God, right? So just a little disclaimer before I go further. In everything I'm going to say, I have no resentment. I'm not judging. I'm just stating facts, and I have a little quirky, kind of sarcastic humor, but that's my personality. But I don't mean any judgment or anything harmful, right? I just speak facts from the heart. So I, of course, was taught pendulum from a young age, and I was very accurate as well. I was ignorant because France is more of a Catholic country, right? Especially back in the days. Like nowadays, you have several religions, but you would see Catholic churches in every town, so to speak. So I was told to go to church, and I never had a good feeling about going to church. Like it never made sense to me. And when I learned about God and Jesus in catechism, I went for 1 year because I didn't want to go. And my parents said, just go for 1 year. And if you don't like it, you can stop. I said, it's been one day and I already know I don't like it. Can I stop now? No. Okay. So I went there, but it was nothing about the Bible. I never held a Bible ever in my life at this time. My parents were also forced to go to church. My mom went to Catholic school. And when I became Christian, I asked my parents, did you ever hold a Bible in your hands? Did you ever read the Bible when you went to church or when you went to Catholic school? The answer was no. And so when I rejected the church, but I made the mistake when I was a young child, I made the mistake to reject Jesus and put him in the basket of church and religion in an institutional sense of the term, like a man-made sense of the term. So, but it was not from a place of rebellion, because it's not that I had hatred or anything. It's just I didn't like going there. I didn't like the people there. I didn't like anything about that. So I stopped going after a year, and life went on. I was always interested in paranormal stories. And my mom would watch a show. There was a French show on TV. It didn't last for long, but there were several episodes, and it was called Mystère, so French for mysteries, like walls that were bleeding, like all kind of spooky things. And when you're a child, you see healers, you see psychics who help people by bringing messages and by bringing healing. So to me, it felt like they were helping people, because remember, I was not rooted in Christ, so I was ignorant. I was just seeing the aspect of wow, they are helping people because they have this ability to see the unseen, hear the sounds that you cannot hear with your ears. That's amazing to me. Like the helping people kind of aspect. So you could say that my heart was in the right place, because it's not like I wanted to learn how to cast spells or take revenge, or like I was never in those dark things. That's not an excuse, because it's still the same, but just to give context as how my mindset was at the time. So using these things for good was really appealing to me. But that's how you fall in the new age, and that's where Satan has you. Because one thing you discover, I don't even know how to call it, discipline type, like, I don't know, crystals, Reiki, like, and then someone tells you, oh, you should try this. Oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then you should try this. Oh, okay. Why? Because nothing works, obviously. So you're trying something, it does something nice to you, but nah, yeah, maybe something else would work because this was not really. No, it's not working because it's not Jesus. So it cannot work. And I wish I knew that. Would have saved me from going down the rabbit hole. But in spite of all these things, God still saved me. And like I always say, God saved me with my tattoos. God saved me with all my piercings. He loved me as I was. And he never judged me for those things. And of course, a lot of repenting, a lot of crying was involved, because my business was also involving at the time some new age activities, which I didn't know were new age, because it's like I always say, being in the new age is like stepping in dog poop. You kind of look around to see where the smell is coming from. You see other people doing weird things. And the whole time you have both feet in it, and you're like, oh, that was me. Actually, I was in it the whole time. So that's what I would say about the new age practices.
What exactly do you mean by new age? Because there's a broad spectrum for that.
Okay.
What do you mean by it?
Well, just generally everything that's not Jesus, anchored in Jesus. So we're talking about Reiki. And just saying this, I feel I have to wash my mouth. You know? Energy healing, using crystals, like you just have a rock on your desk and you're like holding it and like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be calm. Like I need to channel some calm energy, kind of foolishness like that. So crystal, energy healing. There is also new age like manifestation. I was never really into manifestation. I didn't really, to me, it never worked, because when you have heavy trauma, these things, like, you need God, you don't need manifestation. Basically, that's as simple as that. So yeah, that's what I mean with by new age. And I would be also very careful, because the wellness industry has so many doors opened to the new age. Because I became a personal development coach at first when I opened my business. Like nothing woo-woo, nothing weird, just normal coaching, how to ask questions to people to help them be self-confident, like mindset, nothing weird. But this is when you realize that you start talking weird, like, oh, let me get in alignment. Let me walk barefoot on the ground to just ground and be in contact with Mother Earth. And let me listen to some meditation music and align my chakras. This is how it starts, because then you kind of watch YouTube videos, and then you meet someone and you become friends online, and they tell you about their experience, how they've channeled some aliens or some weird things like that. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you hear people talk about the Bible like it's limiting. We have those abilities as human. Right now, I'm talking lies, right? I don't stand for that. I'm just giving examples of the kind of speech that you would hear in the new age. The Bible is very limited, because those who wrote the Bible don't want you to explore your full potential as a human. So your psychic abilities need to be developed, because otherwise, why would we have them? Spoiler alert, it's a demon. Like, bro, it's not your dead grandma, it's a demon. I promise you. So all these things lead to this whole new age movement, like the self, the glorification of the self, the ego, that you need to kill your ego to access this full oneness that the universe is giving you, basically. Because of course you believe in the universe, you don't believe in God when you're in the new age. So these are a few examples of things that I used to hear and I even believed at some point. And I'm not even going into the part where I met friends and like shamans and this whole shamanic experience that I've had. I'm not even going to go there because it's really, really dark. And all this time, you're just being deceived because you think you are doing good. You think you are helping people. Like when I was a quotation mark, cringe alert, energy healing facilitator, I never took credit. I was like, no, it's the universe, it's your soul who wants you to heal. So that's why you feel better and all this kind of foolishness. But at least I didn't have the cult of the ego to say I did that. Once again, not an excuse, just
Right.
I had limits, and this is how you fall into it. So yeah, this is the sad reality. And the more time flies, the more I see people getting into that because I take part in networking events and I rarely go to a networking event where there is always at least one psychic coach or one astrologer, or more and more people are opening businesses. Once again, I'm not judging because I would be a hypocrite to judge, because you can be doing these things and still mean well because you're
Right.
deceived yourself. But it makes me sad that those people are being deceived because I know how it feels and I would not wish that upon anyone.
That was heavy.
I'm sorry.
No. It's okay. It's just like my eyes are open to things that I hadn't considered to be new age. And that's one of the best parts about doing this podcast is I learn so much from the people that I talk to that I never imagined for myself.
Wow.
So I appreciate that. And thank you for explaining what you meant by that.
Welcome.
What was a season in your life that truly changed you?
The very first big that came to mind is when I met this. I've always loved music, right? And I was following artists on Facebook, Instagram, because I genuinely love music and like 80s and 90s music. So I love to follow the artist to get the direct update because you don't really see updates easily of old fashioned music, right? So I like to see when they have a new remix or a new song, or maybe they had a show, a live show somewhere, and I can watch it on YouTube. And I started to follow this one of my favorite rappers. And long story short, I ended up moving to Jamaica to live with him. We almost got married. And for privacy reasons, obviously, I'm not going to give any clue or anything. But let's just say he has Rasta beliefs that, once again, I'm not judging people's beliefs. I would be a hypocrite because I know you can mean well and still be in the wrong. So Rasta believe in Jesus, but as they call him as Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia, was the reincarnation of Jesus, like Jesus coming back, basically. So this is when I was mostly introduced to Jesus. And you could say he is a believer in a sense, because he believes in God, even if it's different. But where I was at the time, I see how God opened the door by making me meet a man like him, because he had several versions of the Bible, including a very, very old book, a very old Bible from his mother, that one day he is like, oh, let's take a look at the Bible together. I'm like, okay, cool. So he gave me the Bible to hold, and he's like, I didn't know it was still a form of divination at the time, but hey, I was in the new age, so baby steps, I couldn't know. He's like, okay, open the Bible randomly and let's see what the message is. I'm like, okay. And when I held the Bible, I started crying and crying, like warm tears that felt like a hug, like homecoming. And I didn't understand. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just crying for no reason. Like, that's silly. I don't know what's happening, you know? And little did I know that it was just Jesus holding my hand as I was holding the Bible. But I didn't understand that at the time, but now I do. So this is a significant moment because I also realized that a Christian church, because in Jamaica it's mostly Christian churches, we were living on top of a hill and there was a church in the community. So on Sundays you could hear music, like instruments, people singing from the house. I'm like, wow, this has nothing to do with the Catholic church I grew up with. Like, The songs in the Catholic church, they would make me cry. They would make me feel depressed. Every time I would go to church, I would feel heavy. I would feel depressed. That's also why I didn't want to go, because there was this heaviness, this smothering, this something that felt wrong in my body. But hearing people being so happy to go to church and hearing there was drums and like they were clapping, they were singing, I'm like, wow, this is such a vibe. Like, this sounds fun. And I remember the second time I went back to live with him, I just literally escaped France before they closed the borders for COVID. I mean, the plane I was on was the one before the last to be accepted. So I really was just in time to spend COVID with him. And it was on a Friday and I was so excited. So there was this lady of his family that everybody would call Auntie. So Auntie would give Bible studies on a Friday night, but I didn't know. So because I had just arrived and we were walking by foot to go back to his place, and he was like, let's go and say hi to Auntie, because like surprise her because I was back. So I shout her name from downstairs because you walk to go in her veranda. And like, Auntie, hi. And I was like, who that? And I could hear people. And then I opened the door of the veranda and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm disturbing you. I felt so stupid. They were having a Bible study together. I'm like, oh, that actually sounds so nice. Like they gather younger people around Auntie, who is like 80 something, like a wonderful lady who just grabs her machete and just smashed a coconut. I was like, whoa, respect. Just for the little joke, like a lovely, lovely lady. We really loved each other. She was like my Jamaican grandma. And that really touched my heart to see the community around Jesus and the happiness around church that I had never seen. So I would say, to go back to your question, that would be something that was very significant for me, even if I didn't understand everything at the time.
That is such a neat story of how it's different for me. I grew up going to church my whole life.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
hearing that experience, it gives me a new perspective to look at and the joy that you saw and you felt from being part of that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it's a beautiful part of what we do. With that, what do you believe God has called you to do in this season?
Live. Because it's said in the Bible that God is the father of the living people,
Mm.
right? So it really felt like a transition from the world of the dead to feeling alive again. And when I say this, I mean internally. Internally, I see the difference between how I was before. I would have, for example, thoughts that were negative, like not suicidal. I had already gotten over that. I would never have done it, but in moments of despair, I would see it as a getaway. Like, at least death is a refuge. That's what I would believe when I was in my darkest times. So I would have thoughts that would be cycling, like, when your mind is racing
Right.
and you kind of obsess on a problem that you have, you cannot see the solution. You're so laser focused on the problem, like negative self-talk, negative self-beliefs about myself. I mean, constant doubt, feeling inferior, feeling like I was nothing, like believing the lies of the enemy. And God used a mental health specialist to bring healing to me before I completely found Jesus, or Jesus was there, but I completely saw that it was him. So healing some trauma that I wasn't even aware I had. I mean, I was carrying, because some I was aware, but some I was not aware. When the shift really happened, it's like a veil lifted and I'm like, oh Lord, I was wrong all this time. And so the first thing would be to stop misleading people against my knowledge and against my will, because when you are an energy healing facilitator, even if you mean well, you're still not serving the Lord. So stop sinning, stop leading people to sin without knowing it, stop opening doors or forcing doors that were already open in people, like opening them further. And this was also a hard pill to swallow, because when you are so sure that you're helping, that the work that God has called you to do, and you realize that that was not quite the same God. So that was very, very painful, because I'm like, wow, I never meant to do any of that. And sorry, I'm being a little bit emotional here. Because when you're deceived yourself, you're deceiving others, obviously. It's normal. That's how it works. So the fact that I stopped that was just life changing. It was an identity shift. I didn't know who I was anymore, but that was the opportunity to actually know who I was and let go of who I was not. So this is mostly an internal shift. And yeah, that's how I would see it. And also in business, because the Lord has developed this skill within me all this time about SEO writing. I was just doing it for myself. What I used to say, I intuitively knew how to do SEO, but little did I know that it was God putting this in me. And this is the part that is so humbling, because even if I was rejecting Jesus by mistake, by ignorance, because I put him in the same basket as the man-made church, so to speak, God never gave up on me. And you're going to laugh. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny at the same time. I had the job interview on the anniversary of the death of my grandfather. And of course, it's my grandfather sending me this opportunity because he was in the same industry, it was a job in the fish industry. He was a factory owner in the fish industry. So me having this job interview on that day in the same industry as him, of course, it's my dead grandfather who's sending me a sign. And now I'm laughing about it because the dead know nothing, as it says in the Bible. And even that, God forgave me for something that God did that I attributed to a dead man who was sinful, like, because we all are as humans. That's what I mean.
Right.
I was just so humble. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, God. I'm really, really sorry. It was you all this time. And I was giving thanks to my dead grandfather, but it was you the whole time. Even if I rejected your son, you never rejected me. And I still have no words for that.
The fact that you're a wordsmith, that's what I call copywriters. They're wordsmiths. They know how to replace several words with one word that means something even more to reach people. Makes it interesting because you have life experience. You have life experience. You have met other people from around the world. Like I told you, I hadn't left the US until October of last year. And I've only lived basically in this area or in Pennsylvania my whole life. And you grow up in a bubble of words and you grow up in a bubble of thinking certain ways. Okay, a thing about it is this is the time of the year where I live because I'm surrounded by farmland. Be careful because the deer are coming out. My daughter almost hit 3 deer last night.
Wow.
Those are the comments. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, I live in this area. I know that. You don't, it's not obvious to you. But because you have experience and you've been other places and you've met other people, and now you went from being a life coach to stepping into being a copywriter and a content strategist, how has those past experiences affected? Because you have your Christian beliefs, but God really wants you to mesh those together. How have those two together synergized into what you do now?
Oh, I love this question. I want to share two things. The first one being boundaries. I have boundaries with who I'm not going to work with. And it's not to sound like a mean person, but I genuinely cannot support someone whose activity I don't believe in, because I could have had a good contract with a growing company in France. And the way I was presented it by a recruit, I would still be a contractor, I guess. And I was like, oh yeah, it's in the wellness industry. But they wanted me to write sales pages for Reiki courses, manifestation, this kind of thing. So I said to the recruiter, I'm very grateful that you took the time to think of me to interview me, but just cannot accept, because I know these things can damage people, can create trauma. I know it's not what people think it is. And because of my experience, I would be misleading. First of all, I cannot do a good job because I would be compromising my faith. I will not give my best because I don't believe in it. And I would feel like I'm lying. So I cannot do that. It was probably a big contract. We hadn't even spoken about money, but it was a very big company. So it was, let's say it was a great opportunity. I declined. And after the call, I cried, but not because I missed an opportunity. I didn't feel like I missed an opportunity. I cried because I had the feeling I was doing something that was serving God and that God didn't like it. And I felt such a relief when I declined. So I cannot work with psychics. I cannot work with mediums, and I cannot work with law of attraction mentors or something. I wrote it on my sales page. I cannot, out of integrity, support you if I don't believe in the outcomes that you are providing. I'm not going to be doing my best because I'm going to be spending more time trying not to roll my eyes and say something than focusing on the actual problem that you want solved. I'm not the right fit for you. So I feel I'm not contributing to that by refusing, and I can sleep peacefully. And the money that I make feels light because before, even if I was believing what I was believing, if I'm really honest with myself, something felt heavy, but I couldn't pinpoint it. So when I stopped that business and I let go of 99% of my clientele, basically I only kept one client who was just here for mindset and nothing new age at all. So God was okay with me keeping that client because it was just asking questions, just pure coaching. So nothing new age in that. And the second aspect, it's something I actually realized 2 days ago. I've seen many people in the coaching industry kind of forcing their way into people. I'm going to give you an example. When you have someone come to you to ask for strategy as a consultant, as a coach, I see what their business needs. I see if their niche is profitable or not, if their ideal client avatar is like, if they're talking to them in the way that triggers action in an ethical way, obviously, because copywriting is not about manipulating. It's about removing objections. Like it's the copy that self-selects people. I'm totally against those bro marketing strategies, the fear-based, the guilt tripping, the shaming, because I've seen that as well in the new age, and the coaching industry is also borderline new age in some aspects, the dark side, when they give fake urgency. Well, I'm sorry, honey, but if you don't want to invest in yourself, you don't want to work with me, it means you don't really want to grow, so I cannot really do anything for you. This kind of thing. I stand against that. Back to my point, now that I've given the example, it's easy to see what a business needs in a factual way. Okay, you are here, you want to reach that, you need to do that. That's one thing. And it's easy to be like, yeah, you need that, you need this, and that. That's it. But let's not forget, without falling into the sugar coating or anything like that, because I'm all about transparency and honesty, but it doesn't mean be blunt and be like a bull and just go straight into it. It makes me see that there is a human behind the business, a human with a story, with trauma, a human with a story that I have no clue about. And who am I to tell someone who has picked a niche, who is already aware that this niche is not super, super profitable, but through the conversation, I see that it's their choice and it's important for them. Who am I to say, nah, you're choosing to serve the wrong people, change the type of people that you want to work with, because otherwise I cannot help you. No. So I don't know what is between God and that business owner. I don't know why that business owner has chosen to serve this niche, to do that service, to create that freebie, to create that offer. Because of everything I've experienced, my approach is I see what you need. I see where you are. I want to challenge you a little bit out of your comfort zone in a healthy way, but I don't want to traumatize you by saying you need to do this, otherwise you're going to fail. So my approach is more gentle, like what is the next step that's going to take you to your goal? That's a little bit uncomfortable, but that's not horrible. That's actually the type of discomfort that triggers growth, right? The positive kind of discomfort. And then I do it as a challenge by asking questions as well. So the realizations come from them, not to manipulate,
Right.
but because God gave us free will. So it's my job to ask questions that enable people to get their own question according to their own free will, according to what God has placed in them. So I don't know if my answer makes sense, because in my head it's clear. It's more like basically because of everything I've experienced, just to summarize. I know when someone needs to be gently pushed out of their comfort zone for their growth, and I know where they cannot go too far. because we
Okay.
all have limits. That's what I mean.
Right.
And I'm not here to add trauma. I'm not here to be like, you need to do this. It's uncomfortable, but you have to. And it's completely out of alignment with what they can do. It would be like me being told, you have to dance on TikTok to get clients. No, thank you, Rebecca, or whatever name. I'm not going to do that because I have limits. This person thinks that's what I have to do, but I know myself. I know I'm going to cringe and everybody's going to cringe. And at the end of the day, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. So I hope that's clear what I'm saying. It's
Yes.
here to push my way into people. I'm here to show them my way and get them in a gentle way to their own realization so that they can choose the path that they need to take in their business to get to the next step. I hope that was clear.
That was very clear.
Okay.
I think partly because I know what a copywriter is, and I know that I can write decent copy, but I've had a copywriter before and they've revamped it. And I looked at it and I'm like, you said what I said, but 10 times better. And it's a huge difference to have the voice of persuasion that you can bring into what you do. I am all people, get yourself a copywriter.
Thank you.
For the person who's listening who feels like they've been entrenched in whatever they were raised in, and they feel like God can't use them and there's no specific calling for them, what would you say to them?
Respectfully, because I've been there before, this is the voice of the enemy. That's not the voice from God, because God can always use anyone. He's used Paul, who was a persecutor of the Christian people, to become an apostle and a voice for Christ. So if Paul could be saved, I'm saying this respectfully from who he was before. Moses killed someone. I was saved with my tattoos and piercing while I was being deceived and deceiving people. There are some people in prison that get saved, even if they have murdered, even if they have, once again, no judgment here. But God will always use someone for his glory, and he cares. So I would say, come out of agreement with those thoughts. Don't reinforce the voice of the enemy, because that's not what God wants. And I had to repent of that as well myself, because when I realized that when I was self-depreciating, I was insulting God, because God created me. So who am I? And even when I was rejecting myself and thinking negatively about myself, it's still pride. It's still being self-centered. And that's a hard realization, because when you've put yourself under everything and everyone your whole life, because you've been gaslit, you've been abused, you name it, you start believing those things. And even if you think you are nothing, it's still self-centered. You're still focused on yourself more than God. And I hate saying that because it sounds hurtful, and it hurt me when I realized that, but it's the kind of hurt that I needed, because I was insulting God and who I was to put myself under other people, because no one is better, no one is worse, because the Bible says it, and God creates and he doesn't make mistakes. So we are all one, like members of the body of Christ. So that's what I would say. And my heart is really with anyone who is feeling that way. I do understand. I really do.
So before we close, at the end of my episodes, I always ask a question that was either submitted by somebody from the audience or a previous interview. And the question I have for you is, what is something you learned in the hard season that helps you today in your calling?
I think God gave me a bad eyesight. Like it's terrible. Like without my glasses, I cannot see. Like and now I can not only I cannot see from afar, but I cannot see from up close neither. It's like I would need 3 pairs of glasses, one for far, one for close, and one for the middle. That's just I just laugh about it. But my point is, I am someone who, even if I feel, I have feelings through the Holy Spirit, I'm also a rational person. And my biggest lesson is not to rely on what I see or my own understanding. So now I'm learning to be grateful for my terrible eyesight that I always laugh about, because that's the reminder from God, not as a punishment, but as a reminder that he is my eyes. I just need to look at him and he will guide me. So the darkest season, when I blame myself because I'm not where I want to be, or when I think I should be, who the heck am I to think I should be somewhere if the Lord hasn't taken me there yet? So removing myself from the picture and focusing on him and him only. and reminding myself that he is guiding me. So this is, yeah, that would be my answer.
I love that. How can people find you?
On my website, so morganeconsulting.com. So Morgane with an E, Morgane, consulting.com, and social media the same, like Facebook and LinkedIn, Morgane Consulting. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much for your time today and
Likewise, thank you so much.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this episode encouraged you, gave you clarity, or helped you think differently about your purpose and what God is calling you to do, I would love for you to follow the podcast, share it with someone who might need it too. Because the more we talk about faith, obedience, and living in God's purpose, the more we begin to recognize how God is working in our everyday lives too. And if you're in a place right now where you're asking, what is God calling me to do? How do I find my purpose? How do I hear God's voice more clearly? I've created something for you. It's a free guided resource called Living Out God's Purpose, 21-day journal and prayer prompts. It's about helping you slow down, quiet the noise, and begin to realign your life with what God is already speaking. You can download it for free using the link in the show notes. And just remember this as you go, you don't have to do everything. You just have to be faithful in what God has given you. That is what John 17:4 means. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.